So let's get started. And welcome to the Manchester is Blue Show. And tonight we're joined by Brian Horton and also City Dave, who is Brian's biggest fan.
Indeed, I've just been telling him.
It's nice to know I've got one fan.
No, absolutely. I think
Brian.
Nice messages this morning, saying that you were coming on the show. And honestly, to a man, everyone says how much they loved your style of football when you were our manager, and that you are greatly missed.
Thank you.
So, Brian, I think we best just start at the beginning, really. So, how did the job come about? Obviously, you were at Oxford. You kept Oxford up, and then what was it? 3 games into the season, and you get offered the City job. Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
I'd had a couple of hard seasons at Oxford. The last part of my managerial time there, because obviously Robert Maxwell died, and the money went, and had to manage the club by selling players and whatever. So the last couple of seasons were very hard, but. I just got a phone call from John Maddox, and people put that together and said we were best friends and everything. I got a phone call from John Maddox saying that Peter Reid had been sacked, and my name had been mentioned by Freddie Pye and Peter Swales. Would I like to meet up with him and Freddie Pye, which we did at the initial meeting and at Stafford, and then got through those talks and met Peter Swales on the Friday.
Right. And what were you sort of thinking pressure-wise with it? Obviously, big club, big fan base, tough fan base if things aren't going your way. So were you ready for that pressure, or like I say, or did you just relish in the opportunity to manage a big club like City?
I did. I relished being captain all my football life. I relished managing. And never backed away from everything, never felt pressure, because there is pressure. And if you let it get to you, you've got no chance in football management. So I decided once I'd got the job that I was going to attack it the way Man City fans wanted it to go, or wanted it to be, because I knew the reputation of the football, the fans, wanted that style of football. So I set out from day one to be just an attacking manager.
Mm. Yeah. Well, obviously, the famous 4-2-4 formation. I'm pretty sure Pep Guardiola's got a little photo of you in his office, Brian, thinking the original attacking manager.
I think I've got a photograph of Pep rather than one of me.
Yeah. Obviously, we had some fantastic results under here, and I don't think any of us could not go without saying the 5-2 v Spurs.
If I
know you get asked it all the time.
If I have a pound for everyone that said that to me, and it was a great game, and I still watch it every now and again just to cheer myself up, because it was such a great win. I mean, their side that day, Petrescu, Barmby, Sheringham, Klinsmann, it was full of top players, and but I think we were up for it. I played a very, very attacking team, and we were magnificent that day, and I think Ozzy got the sack on the Monday after that, by getting a beating from us 5-2 like that. But I mean, Walshy wanted to prove a point because he'd been at Tottenham and they let him go, so he wanted to prove a point. Actually, it's a funny one because I still speak to Uwe Rosler every now and again, and I didn't quite remember that I'd left him out that day. I played Summerby, Beagrie, Walsh, and Quinney up front, so I didn't realise I'd left Uwe out.
Well, next time you speak to Uwe, Brian, just pass him my number on, see if he fancies going on for a chat.
I watched his progress in Germany. He's having a hard time when managing. Great lad, and a great player.
So how did that come about, Brian? That was, I think for a lot of City fans, me included, he is my favourite ever player. Played with his heart on his sleeve. He just seemed to be what we needed at that time. And I think we got him for what? I know he came on a week's loan to begin with, and then we got him for 300 grand. Like, how did all that come about with Uwe?
Uwe, Niall was injured, and I got a phone call from an agent called Jerome Anderson, who was a top agent, a football agent at that time. And basically, as you did, agents rang round, what are you looking for? I need a striker. And he said to me, I've got an East German international striker that's had an ankle operation and he's looking for a club, and he can come on a week's trial. And it's not very often at a Premier League club you get a player of that standard coming on trial. So he played in a reserve game on the Tuesday night. Francis Lee and I were there. We got him off at half time, gave him a short-term contract, and he played in the first team on Saturday. And then the rest is history. It just went on and on. Fans loved him, the players loved him because of his work ethic and obviously his goal-scoring prowess.
Yeah. See, what really, I'm interested to know, like, why did Nuremberg want rid of him? Because am I right in thinking he was on loan at Dynamo Dresden? Is that where we actually got him from? Because, I mean, like, to go on to have the City career he had here in a big English club, it's just surprised me that they wanted rid of him.
He'd had an ankle operation.
German football?
He'd had an ankle operation, so obviously they wanted him out and gave him the opportunity to come and train with us for a week. And then, obviously, when he was done, Bernard Alford, God bless him, and Francis did the deal with all the money and what it cost, but it cost very little. I mean, it was one of the bargains of all time for Man City.
Yeah,
really
well, I mean, obviously, Brian, you didn't when he counted on City after you left, but you must think, like, what a player I signed there, a City legend. It must still make you happy to think how he went on with his career. Were you plucking him from Dynamo Dresden or Nuremberg or wherever you're at?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I changed the forward line completely, didn't I? Brought Nicky in from Swindon, and I've seen Nicky play from the youth team up, you know, because I'd been at Oxford, obviously a local club down the road, Swindon. I've seen a lot of him progressing. Walshy I'd played with at Luton. I knew what he was about. Peter Beagrie played against him. I actually played against him when I was playing manager, and knew what about his ability and his crossing ability. Quinny speaks for himself because he was such a great player, good in the air. So it was plus Uwe. So that front five was as good as anything at that time, you know. I was trying to add all the time because they still need pushing. And then Niall got a cruciate, as I'd said. Uwe was out for a little while. So that was it. That was what I was wanting to do at the end of my tenure at Man City, was to get a bigger squad, and obviously I wasn't allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, Brian, why you're so well loved by the fans is it seems to me that, well, I know from experience that every player you seem to bring in played for that shirt. And obviously you can sign players and, you know, they're there for the wages and, you know, they want to just play football. But it just seemed to me that Walshy and Beagrie and Uwe, you brought Flitcroft and Lowmaster as well, and Buzzer, obviously, they really wanted to play for that Manchester City shirt. And I think even when we lost games, it just showed on the pitch that they had an actual real love for playing for Manchester City. And you don't see that as much, you know, anymore, obviously. And I think that was one of the big things that you just seem to be able to spot players. Would you agree with that? Who were going to wear that blue shirt with pride? Absolutely.
I mean, I was quite fortunate because I inherited Tony Coton, who was a top goalkeeper and a top person. Curly, I remember captain, I gave him a 5-year contract. Flitty, who I'd seen come through the ranks, gave him a 5-year contract. Lomas was just about to go out of the football club when I came in. They were talking about selling him to Preston, and I pulled that deal because I'd seen Steve play in the reserves at Man City many times. That's how I got my players, because I watched all the top reserve sides. That's how I did most of my business, all in Oxford. And there was no way I was letting Steve Lomas go. And what a pair in there, those two, with the energy and the commitment that they had, you know, and they had a hard job in there because it was almost 4-2-4 at times. Nicky was more defensive-minded than Biggs. Biggs didn't have a defensive bone in his body, you know. Biggs was just an attacking player. And I put Edgell in. Richard Edgell, again, played for the club because he was City through and through. I still see him when I go to City these days because he does the boxes and speaks to the fans. Ian Brightwell, top lad. see him because he does the same thing as Edgy, and it's just a great bunch of players, you know, that they and that's what I liked about the signings of Biggs and Walshy and Uwe, that they mixed together off the field. They mixed together and played golf together and went out together, and I like that. I like that in my squad. I like that in my players.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask this later, Brian, but seeing as you've moved it on to it, I'm going to say the drinking culture at the club. Obviously, we've talked to ex-players on this show loads of times, and they all say, well, most of them say they all liked a beer. They all liked it was like the camaraderie of the club. But obviously, you being a football manager, were you happy for them to have a beer together, or were you sort of against it, or where did you stand with it?
As a captain, which I was talking about when I was captain of Port Vale, Brighton, Luton, that was always my job to get the players together. And the rules were, and I think players, they don't drink a lot today, but I never objected them to having a beer together, as long as it wasn't stupid, till Wednesday night. And that was the rule. That was the rule when I was a player. No drinking after Wednesday night. Play golf together on Wednesday, have a beer together, go out for a meal together maybe. But after Wednesday, not out. Not even for a meal. I wouldn't even go out with my wife for a meal on Thursday, Friday when I was playing. And I would expect in my players, which I would. And I know they like to drink, but I didn't mind that because that helps, in my opinion, to the camaraderie of it all.
Yeah. See, we've had Ian Bishop on, and he says one of the best drinkers at Man City is Ian Brightwell. So I'm just wondering if you knew that at the time.
That's why I took him with me as my number 2 to McTown. Listen, there was nobody fitter in that club than Ian Brightwell.
No.
Nobody. His mum and dad were top athletes. David was a different animal because he was about 6'3", but Brighty was fitness fanatic. He'd run all day. He'd go through a brick wall for you, and that's why I took him, as I said, to with me as one of my staff when I was a manager. And he did like a beer. If I go through that team, I can probably hardly say one that didn't like a beer, but at the right time. At the right time, and I think that's what Uwe liked about whether they did that in Germany or not. I don't know, but I think that's what Uwe liked about that they mixed together and had a bit. Uwe wasn't a big drinker, and quite a few of the others weren't big drinkers, and I knew the ones because you can tell because they're bubbly, they're outgoing. You can tell the ones that I always liked a beer.
Yeah, and you can smell it, Brian. I said you can smell it as well.
You could smell it if we'd lost.
So, just going back, Brian, when you were on about transfers and that, obviously I've got to ask, Luis Figo, how true is this story that you tried to sign Luis Figo?
Yes, it's true. It's in my book. It's true. Malcolm Allison, who used to come down to watch us play and is big friends with Franny, and I went upstairs after a home game, which I always did, and he was there, Malcolm, who I had great respect for. And he actually said to me, have you seen Luis Figo play? And I didn't know, because it's not like now, where you can watch the TV and watch all the games and watch all the games from abroad. I didn't know this player. I didn't know Luis Figo, Sporting Lisbon. And I said to my secretary, Julia, after I spoke to Malcolm, he said, go and watch him, Brian. He's absolutely different class. So I got Julia to find out where he might be playing. Come out that he was playing for Portugal in Ireland. So I took Tony Book with me, and we went over to watch him play. He was absolutely out of this world. He was unbelievable. So I came back and we said to Franny, if you can, try and have a go, which he did. Met agents through some agents in England, but it was just too much. It was too much to do. But it would have been a great coup, wouldn't it, to bring a player of that quality and whatever. He probably never even knew that was talked about, but it was. That was fact.
See how he got on a Tuesday night when he's pissing it down in Stoke. He was all about it then.
I'm sure he reigned in Portugal and Spain where he went to at times. He's a great player, wasn't he? Fabulous player.
So Brian, when you arrived, what did you know about Paul Lake? Obviously, his career was, over, didn't really make it back, but I know he was in and around the club trying and get back some kind of fitness, and played 120 games for us and went down, obviously goes down as a legend quite rightly. Was that, did you know about him when you arrived at City? Did you think there was a chance he was going to come back and play under you, or even then did we know that it was all over?
No, we didn't know it was all over. I mean, cruciates at that time were an unknown injury. Then I just started to find out about them. And I'd seen Lakey play in the reserves and before he broke into the first team. And not just a great player that could play in any single position. I think that he was such a great lad. And again, that's down to the lads, the camaraderie. And it's hard for me not to say that, but everybody was so, what's the right word, disappointed that Lakey would never come back. And credit to Francis Lee, to be fair, he tried everything and they kept him there all the time while I was there. I think he went to America for an operation that didn't work, and he's just one of the great lads and one of the great names for Man City. And I actually had Lakey as my physio at Macclesfield Town, so I had Ian Brightwell with me and Lakey with me, and you couldn't get two better people with you as your staff.
You've mentioned, Brian, obviously watching the reserves and coming through that route. Do you think English football's done the right thing getting rid of reserve football and just focusing on these academies? Because every ex-pro we speak to talk about how the reserve game was such a big thing to them, coming through and making a name for yourself and playing men's football. Yeah. And I just think it seems so bizarre that we just got rid of it to focus on kids playing kids. I just wonder what your thoughts on it are.
My thoughts are exactly the same. I thought what we had, and I had that from when I started at 15 at Walsall, that you're apprentice, and then if you got in the youth team, and if you're good enough, you got in the reserve team, which I did at 17 at Walsall, and then I didn't actually make the first team. But yeah, I think that's right. They start to play against men. It's any age group, and that progression. I watched lots of the 21s and 23s at City, and it's a good standard, obviously. But I thought that route to get into the first team at any football club was the way to be, without a doubt. And then you earned your corn, didn't you? You went, if you're good enough, then that's what happened. Then you like they were going to sell Steve Lomas, off he goes maybe to a Championship side or a Division 1 side, and tries to come back again. But I like that system personally, that you had a reserve side.
Yeah,
I mean, you think, such as you're on about Juve coming back for an ankle injury, I'm guessing he played some reserves games. If you're a 21-year-old and you've got this German bloke who's like new to the game and he's getting you run around, he's doing everything for his shirt, and that it must lift your game up. I just think English football dropped the ball with that, really. I just don't know how you'd solve it now. I don't think it'll ever come back, and it's a shame, really.
No, I mean, some of the academy stuff is good, and they are talented players, but you can go sometimes and it's not like a proper, I mean, Man City used to get good gates, and all the big clubs for their reserve games, they get a few thousand people, and it was competitive. It was more like a first team game, if you like.
I mean, you look at under 21 football now, and to be a manager of one of them, it must be disheartening, because you look at like the EDS now, they've had games going as well, same as us, and Pep's just said, right, I need your 3 best players. I need Tommy Doyle, I need Liam Delap, and I need that Bernabé. They're all training with first team now. I mean, it's sort of like he's in an unwinnable thing, isn't it? It's just pointless. It's just pointless.
Well, yeah, because managers, I mean, that's the way it is now. I mean, I can't see ever coming back to what we're just talking about there, because it won't. So you've still got the youth team, you've got the under 18s, under 23s, and that's the process, and everybody's doing it. So it's never going to come back as we knew it, as you know, the old Central League, if you like, and the old football combination, which were tough leagues to play in. And as I say, you earned your stripes in those games.
Mm. So, Brian, when you came in, obviously there was Franny taking over and Swales getting kicked out and just turmoil at the club. What did you actually think about all that happening at the time? Did you think, well, have I joined here, or?
No, I tried to let it go above my head, which you have to, because if you never sleep if you let everything like that's going on there. I mean, Peter Swales for me was blue through and through. He was great for me. Bernard Alford was there. I worked closely with Bernard and Peter Swales, and then with Francis again with Bernard and Peter Swales with Franny. But it was just one of those things. It was going to happen. And what it did, obviously, I knew that my days were numbered because Franny wanted his own man, and that's what happens. Not just in my situation, that happens an awful lot in football. So I just carried on, and as you just mentioned, that game there, and beating Liverpool and beating Blackburn away on the games leading up to me leaving. So I just tried to get on with it, enjoy it, and just take out what I could, because it was such a fantastic club to work for. The training ground was good. Tony Buck, Colin Bell, people I'd brought in. I brought Neil McNabb back as youth team coach. David Moss, my number 2. I was thinking I was getting good staff around me and looking forward. But once I was turned down for bringing players in, as I said earlier on, I wanted to strengthen the squad. The 5 wasn't enough up front. Michael Brown was coming through. But he was only about 17, 18. I was wanting some more experience. I wanted some more experienced defenders. I couldn't have betted, to be fair. Steve McMahon had left to go to Swindon, which he did well. He went as a player manager. But Flitty and Steve Lomas had such a lot on the plate, because they were playing those two in midfield and running miles and miles and miles. So to keep doing that every game through a season, the cup competitions, and Steve Lomas got a bad injury, so all of a sudden I'm down again, you know. So once I knew I wasn't getting players to be able to bring in, that I knew my days were numbered.
It's funny, Brian. So I'm going to remind you of something that you've probably forgotten all about. But the week that you were hired by Manchester City, you were actually on the Footballers Football Show. Do you remember that on Sky Sports? And it was hosted by Richard Keys.
Yes, I do.
You do remember that? So it was in the social club right next door to Main Road. I was there on the front row. And it was you, Malcolm Allison, Paul Power, John Maddox, and Richard Keys was hosting. And almost like the questions Dan just asked you, you were so professional that night, because you were getting bombarded with so many questions exactly about that, about Swales leaving the club and who's going to come in and what you're going to do. And you answered just every question just like you have done now, just so professional about everything. No, I'm here to do a job. I've got, good staff around me, and let's see what we can do. And again, when I left that, after that, I met you very briefly, and, I said good luck to you, and you said thanks very much. But I could tell you were so focused that I've got this huge opportunity here, at this big club. And again, I think, when I talked to fans afterwards about that, they were just like, yeah, we're going to give this guy a chance. He's there and he's here for the right reasons. And he's serious about doing this right. So I think you got even before, I think you'd not even managed a game then. I think it was before you managed your first game that everyone was.
It's on the Monday night.
You presented yourself very well to the media right away.
Thank you. That was on the Monday night, and then we played Swindon on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
And John Maddox drove me down because the team had gone down. I trained with the team in the morning. They'd gone down on the coach, and John Maddox drove me down to Swindon after we'd done that for Sky Sports, which was great. Because I'm getting good publicity, and Richard Keys was okay and did a good job that night. But no, thanks for reminding me of that. It was
Malcolm Allison, like, completely, he was obviously a legend at City, as Paul Power. They completely backed you. They were just, there was obviously a lot of talk about Swales, but all the focus on you was, we're going to give him a chance. And I just remember you handling every question that came your way just so incredibly well. And I think the fans really appreciated that and thought, all right, let's give him a chance. And for me, you didn't disappoint at all.
The thing was because it was like where I'd come from Oxford. Everybody said it was a small club, but I'd been a manager for 10 years. Then I got promotion my first year at Hull City, from the third to the second to the old second. 4 years in the Championship, which at a club like Hull was good because they'd never been in the top division. Then I left and went to Oxford. 5 years in the Championship for a small side, and what happened with the Maxwell. So personally, I felt I'd done my apprenticeship, to give me the chance to go and manage a big club. So when people were saying, well, what's he done? I've done 10 years as a manager and 9 in the Championship. I thought it was a good background for me too. But to manage a club like Man City was a dream come true. I mean, it's a massive, massive club. I love going. I love the football. I love watching De Bruyne now, and the whole club is just fantastically well run. The fans are fantastic, always have been. I felt I'd come out smelling the roses, really, because not many were shouting for me out or whatever. It was just a decision from above that wanted a new man.
No, I was in the Kipax, Brian, week in, week out, and you know how that is. Never was there a fan who wanted you out of that club. Never, ever, ever. I'll remind you in another one, we were struggling in the league a little bit, and we played Ipswich, and it was torrential rain, and we were beating them 2-0, and the game got called off after about 40 minutes. And none of the lads in the Kipax would leave. Like, we were so annoyed. And do you remember coming out to the Kipax and trying to calm us all down and tell us to leave? Do you remember that?
I was trying to calm myself down as well. When it the game called off. Yeah, I can remember the night. I remember that it was absolutely lashing down as well. But I've seen games in the past and played in them that carried on in those conditions. I was fuming with the referee that night.
Yeah, I think Vonky got one of those, didn't he? I think Vonky got ahead of that.
He did.
That night.
He did.
Yeah, he seemed a really good player, Vonk, for what we got him for. Did you was particular players that you looked at and thought, decent? Vonk for me was very underappreciated as a centre back.
Yeah, it was just an out-and-out centre back, wasn't he? Was it? Curly was played alongside him at pace, and then I brought Alan Kernahan because again I wanted to freshen it up. I wanted to have more competition. And Curly was obviously the captain. He had loads and loads of pace. Vonky was a straightforward centre half that would win headers for you. Richard Edgell could play centre back, which he did a couple of times, and he was only small, but Richard was very, very good in the air, and obviously giving him the chance to play it right back. We could have sold Edgy. Could have sold him for a lot of money. We turned it down. I don't think I ever told him that story. I told Steve Lomas the story that he nearly went. I said it might have been a Preston, So, but there's the things that sometimes fans don't hear, and players don't always hear till later on in life that they might have been sold, But now with all the Sky TV, which I'm watching, the goals going in here, and players learn about it before some managers do.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
See, I actually wanted to speak about that, Brian. Like, now the modern game, and everybody's got an opinion on everything. I know football's always been like that, but as a manager, you must know, like, Pep's got a bit of criticism about possibly playing all the academy on Thursday night against Bournemouth because we've got Leicester on Sunday. But he can't come out in the presser and be like, oh, do you know what? I want to play Garcia or Otamendi. You've got to keep a lot of cards to your chest, don't you?
Yeah.
Especially now. I mean, you must have done it then. Like, you must know you've got an injured player, but you can't tell the papers he's injured because you don't want them to know he's injured. Whoever you're playing on the weekend, you don't want them to have an advantage over you.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's obviously got harder that because of the number of press and the Sky TV, and it's to keep things secret, like you're saying there, it's almost impossible. Football clubs, players might say something to someone else and all of a sudden it's out. A difficult job. I mean, I know Pep got criticised for a couple of his teams, but how can you criticise a guy that's done what he's done in the game? I met him at Vincent Kompany's testimonial dinner, and he came over to. I'd never met him before, but they'd announced it was my 70th birthday on that night, and he actually came over to the table after a lot of things had stopped, and he just came over and just to say, "I've just come over to wish you happy birthday, Brian." I mean, how good is that from a guy like that? Do you know what I mean? And I just basically just said to him, you know, going to City a lot. I'm loving what you're doing, football. I'd like to come and see you train. He said, anytime. But obviously this pandemic has stopped me being able to do that, you know. But I would love to go down and see what he does because he's a fantastic manager.
Yeah.
You see, while we're on training as well, Brian, I think fans don't understand and all that you'll set your team up training for the week, and then if they get an injury, it does throw you completely out, doesn't it? Do you know, like, I mean, especially now, Pep will have been working on this training all week, and then he gets a message, Gundingham's got COVID.
Yeah.
And it'll just throw everything out, won't it? Do you know what I mean? It must be it must be a very, very stressful job dealing with all that on top, and then the players, and you could say everything right, and then a player will go off and give the penalty. I don't know how you've dealt with it for so long, Brian.
Well, yeah. Well, that's true because, you know, you get a phone call off. I mean, in my day, so say you play Saturday, and if a player's injured, they go in Sunday morning to see the physio, and you're getting a phone call from the physio on a Sunday saying, say you got a game on the Tuesday night, and you get a phone call on the Sunday saying he won't be fit for Tuesday night. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. That's it. That's what I'm saying to you before. I was trying to build a stronger squad. I needed 3 or 4 players to add to that squad, and because you need the top players pushing. You know, you need Quinny being pushed. You need Beagley being pushed. I left Biggs out with the night we beat Blackburn. I played Walshy on the left wing that night. Biggs went mad because I left him out because he was playing well, but that was my decision to do that night because I just felt Walshy could give him problems playing from that side. So I went Nicky Summerby, Quinny, Rosler, and Walshy. And we beat Blackburn that night, if you remember, Ewood Park 3-2 which was a great night of football again.
Yeah, brilliant performance that.
Yeah,
See,
great performance.
Like, if you were going to sum it up now, Brian, is it like 10% tactics, 90% looking after 22 blokes that spit the dummy out, or what? Do you get what I mean? Because it's not just like, oh, I want to roll. You've got to like keep, like you're saying there. He's kicking off because he's not been picked, but you knew that Walsh would do a better job on that night than him. And it's nothing against him as a player. It's just tactically. And then how do you win in that round? It
has got harder because squads are much bigger now, and it is harder to and I think that's why you're saying before about rotating. You know, against Bournemouth, he's going to have to, because you can't expect those De Bruyne to play in all those games, or, you know, or 3 or 4 of the main players that you know are going to be in his best 11. You just can't do it. The pace of the game and everything now is quicker, and you have to rotate. So you just keep them out. I think players expect that now, or accept it more, that they are going to be rotated. Not the top ones, because you want the top ones. I mean, I've said it and I'll say it again. For me, De Bruyne is the best midfield player in the world. And at times you probably think, you know, Pep must think, do I rest him this night? Do I rest him that night? So it does become that way, you know.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, he is breathtaking. Do you think, like, from your era, Brian, what do you think Kevin De Bruyne would be like back then, when it was a bit more physical and a bit more work rate? There wasn't the flair players like there is in today's game. Do you think he'd have been as fantastic as he is now, or do you think he'd have struggled?
He wouldn't have got in my team at Brighton because I played in the same position as him, so he wouldn't have got in that team. No, I think he would get in any team in the world, wouldn't he? I mean, he is that good. Aguero's been that good, and Vincent Kompany was that good. If you get a nucleus of people, so that's that's almost like the backbone of your team, isn't it? You get a top keeper, which they've got, Vincent Kompany, which they're looking for. Laporte is a good player. Isaac is a good signing. Then you've got De Bruyne and Fernandinho, who's been a top player. Him and Rodri, I thought, were brilliant the other night in midfield.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, so you get the spine of your team right. You've got a chance, but you know he's got some class players there, hasn't he? And I mean, Foden's going to be he's going to be a top player, Foden.
Yeah, he is.
Well, so, he can score on and off the pitch.
Yeah, that was one of the headlines in the paper the other day. He's going to have to listen. He is a young boy, and they're going to have to learn the lessons. And you know, we're going back to my day when there was no, you know, mobile phone that could you know, photograph some of my players in the pub maybe, or even me in the pub. But now they can't do anything. Social media, and you know, the spotlight is so much on them. Like him and Greenwood, they made a mistake and they'll be punished for it. But you know, I'm going back to Foden now because he will be, in my opinion, top player.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I 100% agree.
Speaking of talented midfielders, Brian, one player that we haven't mentioned yet, who you brought in, who I think was just wonderful, and I think probably we wanted to keep if we could do, was Mauricio Gaudino. What a player he was. Well,
again, just an agent rang and said that we could have him. He'd been in the German World Cup squad. Swarthy, Italian, German-looking boy. It's a very talented player. Found it hard doing the defensive side of the game in England, but I can remember he made his debut at Newcastle and we had to get him off early. He played well, but he just felt the pace of the game was.
Yeah.
And then he scored the winner against Liverpool on the Good Friday.
Yeah.
Went down like Charlie George when Charlie George scored that winner at Wembley at the end of the game. They had to carry him off, and that's what I was just saying there. I got a phone call. So that was on the Friday. I got a phone call on the Saturday saying that he got a virus, not an injury. He got a virus, and he wouldn't be able to play on Monday at Blackburn. So I might have left him out at Blackburn because Fitzroy Simpson was probably better defensively than Mauricio. Mauricio going forward was so talented. Top again, really good person, you know.
Is that one you wanted to keep? Because I think he was on loan, wasn't he, for like half a season? Did you try and bring him in permanently?
Well, I knew I was going then, so that wasn't my business, was it, to be fair?
Such a shame.
Yeah, it was a shame. I would have tried to kept him. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I would have tried to have kept him. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good player. I just remember when he came in, he just gave that little bit of spark to that midfield. Yeah, real classy player. Yeah.
Well, you don't be a member of German World Cup squad, do you, if you're not a good player? You
No.
know, you just don't. But he was. And again, one that just came through an agent, him and Stefan Karl, actually. Stefan Karl came at the same time.
Unbelievable.
Dave, do you want to just check the Facebook and see if we've got any questions? And I'll just ask Brian a quick one here while you have a flick through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Brian, obviously, like you said earlier, you surrounded yourself with club legends, Tony Buck, Colin Bell. Now, would that have been a hindrance? I know it worked out for you. Like you said, it brought the unity of City. And City still do that to this day. They still bring ex-players in and that. But such as having Tony Buck round, I can imagine it's quite hard being an ex-manager himself and just being City through and through.
Tony was City through and through, is exactly the same as Colin Bell. Tony was actually at the club, but not coaching. So first thing I did, I brought him back on the training pitch with us because the lads had so much respect for him. They called him Skip. I see him at the games with Colin Bell, with Mike Summerby, and I still call him Skip to this day. Different class, absolutely first class. The players had absolute utmost respect for the guy. Colin came back in a different role because he worked with Neil McNabb as almost like the ambassador. We wanted parents to meet anybody at the football club, then it went through Colin, and he did a great job with Neil on the youth policy, you know. So that was the reasons I kept them.
Yeah, I gather that. Like, but they're fantastic blokes, like you say. I just don't know. I just can't imagine Tony Buck mincing his words if you've got a couple of bad results and he's telling you how it should be. That's me. That's what I'm getting.
He was as bad as me. And again, and I had it with Phil Brown when I went with his number 2, and I've been number 2 before. It was almost like good cop. So if Tony wanted to have a go, I'd step back. Go on, Skip, have a go at them. Don't bother me. Where's he coming from? And sometimes they might think, "Oh, it's coming from him." But Tony's not like that, you know. I mean, he would have his say. Don't get me wrong, but he was still joining at that time as well. By the way, he was fit as anything. He's just a great guy. Oh yes, he was fit. He would join in. Yeah, absolutely. Love to. I had to stop him sometimes because he loved to tackle.
I had to say, I bet he did mince his. I bet he didn't shy out of a tackle.
All right.
Go on then, Dave. Have you got anything for us?
Well, honestly, Brian, a lot of people are just commenting about what a great style of football that we played under you. I think you know that already. And someone's saying Sir Brian Horton, which is nice to see. Another Brian here, Brian Jordan, is saying, can you ask Brian if he still goes in the Kenny?
I do.
Well, there you go.
John Lee, the owner, he's a massive Man City fan. Absolutely goes everywhere, all over the world with them. And I was in there probably about 10 days ago. So yes, I do pop in and see him now and again.
So Krista Fons, who's one of our top fans, Brian, he comments all the time. Sir Brian, would you like to see Uwe Rosler coach City? Do you think he could do a good job?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Well, yes. I mean, he's been unlucky, Uwe. Leeds, he went to Fleetwood, Wigan, and he's been mighty unlucky with takeovers and chairman and stuff. And then he's obviously gone to Germany now. And I watch his games when I can. He's at Dusseldorf, and unfortunately got relegated last year. And then they haven't started the season off well this year. So I hope they pick up a little bit. But listen, I think I and all you guys want Pep to be there for the next 5, 6, whatever years. So if Uwe's still young enough, then why not?
Yeah. So. Here's one of our other admins, Chris Laney, who's a massive fan of yours, Brian, as well. He asks you, where would Kinkladze fit in today's team? So if you had to pick between Kinky or KDB, who would you pick in the team and why? That's a tough question.
Well, it isn't a tough question because I didn't have Kinkladze, did I? Kinkladze came in after me, so I didn't manage Kinkladze. So that's not a particularly hard one.
I was just thinking that.
You're thinking what?
That he came in after you. So.
he came in after me, yeah. So it's an hard one. Listen, I did the Sky Sports for Man City at Oxford one night, and Uwe played up front on his own, and Kinkladze played off him. And I think that was probably one of Kinkladze's. I know he scored that wonder goal once, but that night at Oxford, that night at Oxford was as good as I'd seen him play, playing off the front man. So it was almost like they played that night 4-4-1-1, if you like. And Kinkladze just had a free role, and I think that was his best position to have that free role, like a number 10 now.
Right, going off what Laney just said, then, any player that you managed at City, we got a time machine. We're going back from now, and we're going to put him in this current City team under Pep Guardiola. Who you pick him?
Who would I pick?
Yeah,
one player. From my time. Oh gosh.
I'm going to say who I'd probably have because I think it suits the modern games. Keith Curle.
Curly. Flitty was a magnificent player. I would have never sold Gary Flitcroft in a million years. He was not just a good footballer. Again, he was a great lad. He would do anything. I asked him to play right back one time against QPR. And he never played there before. And he said to me, I've never played there, Gaffer. I said, go and join in. Just go and join in from right back. He scored that day. He scored, if you remember, with him 3-0. That he would be my pick.
Yeah.
Brian, I love that. Like a professional footballer, man and a manager, you were going, just go join in, just enjoy yourself.
Well, that's what I said to Walshy that night. Walshy came to me, and obviously I'd played with Walshy. And he didn't know what to call me by my nickname or manager, but he did call me Gaffer. And he said, I've never played out there ever. And that same thing, as you said to him, Walshy, just go and join in, go and play off the front too, just go and link in, just go on. I don't want you to play wide left wing and stay there, just drop in there when we haven't got the ball. He was outstanding that night, absolutely outstanding. And but he didn't like playing there. He wanted to play up front.
Yeah.
I feel like we've kept you for a long time, Brian. So I think, what time are we on, Dave?
Yeah, it is 8:45 for you.
So, Brian, I think we should wrap this up with just tell us, like, now, like, you are City through and through, and I just think you need to wrap it up and just tell us why you feel that way. I think that's a good way to end it, Dave. Do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I have affection for all my clubs, obviously, and this is what as you know, I've just finished my book, which is out for sale now, and my days at every club, I would never look back. So even from Walsall as a kid when I got a free, but going to Port Vale, then to Brighton, then to Luton, and my managerial career, I've had a wonderful, wonderful time in football. And it's hard to go. The people say to me, which is the best time? Which is the best club? Which is the best? And it's hard for me to say that. Like, but you know, all I've got to say about Man City, the fans and you guys, people, never ever say anything derogatory, nothing. And I just love my time there. And just a pity it couldn't have been longer, because I think with a few additions to the players we've been talking about, I think we could have gone on and been a real good club in the Premier League.
Totally agree with that. And
Totally agree.
And every City fan does as well, Brian. Like, honestly, to a man, they all think, you know, after what happened the following season, after you went, and the disbandment of that team that you had created and put together, if you'd have been able to stay and add in those, couple more defenders, maybe a creative playmaker, in the middle, I think we would have been onto something, particularly with the style of football we were playing as well. It was 10 years ahead of its time. It was wonderful to watch, and you're held in very high esteem by every City fan that I know.
That's very kind of you, thank you. And that's why the reason it's I still live in Manchester now. I've never moved since I came to Man City. I wouldn't move because the people are, and the fans are, and I not just going to the first team games. I love going to watch the kids play in the 23s and 21s, whatever, because I'm made to feel just as welcome down there. So it's just a fantastic football club.
And do you have a copy of your book there, Brian? We've put a link on the page, but have you got one you want to show?
Yeah, I'll get one that my wife apparently is just reading, just to see what I've said about her. So I don't know if you can get it on there. How can I get it on?
Just
put it in front of the camera.
There you go. So
that's Brian Horton, 2,000 games and a life in football. And it's been good. A guy called Tim Rich wrote it. And it started off by, quickly, I'll tell you the story. It started off by, because he rang me and said, I'm doing a book on Man City managers. Would you do your chapter? Which I did. And he said to me, wow, you've got some good stories, haven't you? And I said, well, I should do after all the games I've got. And he added them up and he said, you've done over 2,000. There's only a couple of other people ever done that, which I'm very, very proud of, So, yeah, I enjoyed doing it, and apparently it's doing well. So, yeah, bye.
We'll get it linked on the page, Brian, as well for you.
That's great of you. It's great talking to you. Thank you very, very much, both of you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Absolute honour for me to talk to you today.
All the best in
Brian.
Portland.
if you'd ever like to come on again, or if we've ever got a topic we think you'd suit, we'd love to get you on, just to have a chat, even if ever you think about it. Okay, pal?
Well, you're the same. If you feel like saying 6 months' time and City's going again, or you want me to just come on for 10 minutes and do something, you've got my number.
Yeah, mate. I'll text you. All right then, Brian. Nice to speak to you, pal. We'll see you later.
Great speaking to you both. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye. All right.
Is that Brian? There we go.
Yeah, he's
what
gone.
did you make of that then, Dave?
All good. God, I mean, as I say, I met him just before he did his first game for City, you know, the night before, and he was a gentleman then, and he's a gentleman now. And all the comments down that we're getting on the page now, we're all saying the same thing. Absolute gentleman. Brought us a really nice brand of football, and yeah, he was. I think Franny personally has got a lot to answer for there. That I know he wanted his own man in, and I understand that, but Horton didn't do anything wrong there. He brought in fabulous players for us. He wanted to bring in more, and I think he should have been given more time than he was, and things could have been very, very different for us. So.
But do you know what I liked about him? He wasn't bitter about it, and he sort of took it as a blessing in disguise, didn't he? He said, "I've left. Nobody wanted me to leave," so he's still got this like affinity to City. If he'd had that another season and it gone tits up, he might not have that. He might, do you know what I mean? So maybe. Yeah. But I thought he was a top guy, and I thought he talked a lot of sense.
Yeah. And he knows his stuff. Anyone who's been involved in football for over 2,000 games as a player and a coach and a manager, they absolutely know their stuff. So yeah, I really hope, Dan, that we can get him back on in a few months' time. I've really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah, but do you know what I liked about him? Like he said, he still goes and watches the under-18s and under-21s.
Yeah.
70-year-old, and he's going to bloody Academy Stadium on a night time to watch under-21s. It's fantastic. It's fantastic news. But, like I say, do you know what? I didn't ask him, and I wish I did. I was going to ask him about David White. Did he regret getting rid of him? But I didn't want to dampen the spirits, but I did want to ask him that.
It's a funny one, Dan, because I've never heard any City fan really have a go at that, even though David White was the FA Youth Cup, and we know all of that came through with Redmond and Lake and whatever else. I kind of get the feeling from a lot of City fans that they feel that White had done his time there, and we'd got the best David White available, and he was getting a lot of injuries by the time that we sold him. He barely played for Leeds, if you remember, by the time he went there.
Yeah.
He got his England cap at City. So I don't know, we got Rocastle in exchange, and I know Rocastle wasn't amazing for us, but I think it was a smart bit of business. I think White had done everything he could for us, and obviously White absolutely loves City anyway. But I've never spoken to a City fan who holds any malice over Horton for getting rid of White. But that was a really interesting one for me about Gary Flitcroft, because that lad should have had 50 England caps, and I thought he was going to do, like he was that good, and then Blackburn, who were at the time top of the league, come in and buy him. I think we should have got more from him than we did, to be perfectly honest. But that was interesting for Brian Horton to say, and it's probably because he was a midfielder himself. No, that's the player who,
it was nice.
Go anywhere.
Like I say, I thought Keith Curle had got a nod for it, or even Juve. But do you know what else I found interesting, Dave? So we got Juve off an agent ringing him up and just saying, "Got this kid, he's decent. Do you want him?" Yeah, go on, man. 152 games later, he's a City legend. And that one you were on about, who you thought we should have signed, what's his name?
Yeah, Gaudino. Yeah.
Same again, just an agent ringing him up. It's just no scouting or anything. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's just an absolute different world than 25 years ago. Just a different world. But this, as I say, you know, for me, the players that he brought in all just seemed to wear the heart on the sleeve for City. They all wanted to play for City. And how many players can you say that about, Dan, nowadays? And I include City in that. Like, it's all about the money, isn't it? Like, how many players actually, you know, you take Gerrard and Terry and Giggs out of it. Like, how many players actually really, really, really want to play for that club? And what I saw in the early 90s under Horton was Walsh, Uwe, Quinn, Beagrie, you know, Flitcroft, Lomas, Curl. Yeah, we didn't get the results every week, but you know what? That shirt that you're wearing right now, they wore that with bloody pride, week in, week out, and they really wanted to play for it.
Oh, Dave, that's why I wore it. I thought Brian would have said something, but he didn't. So.
Happy days, that shirt. Happy day. Happy days.
But, yeah, Dave, I really enjoyed it. So, I don't know if you want to talk your thoughts about the Bournemouth game on Thursday, Dave, before we shoot off, or it's up to you, pal.
We've got a few. Yeah, let's do another 5 minutes, shall we? And then we'll switch off. We've got a few more. See if there's any more comments. Yeah, met Brian at Company's Testimonial. What a gent. Alison McGarry always talks very well about City. Such a shame he didn't get longer. Mark Jones, yes. Mauricio Gaudino is the player that Boris Johnson took out in that charity game. So, yeah, Bournemouth, Dan. So what are you thinking?
I'm happy for the youth to get a nod in it. I know the League Cup's our cup, and we like to win it every year, but it's a funny season this season. If the lads hold it on till half-time, full-time, and it goes to penalties, so what? It's just going to be one of them. Bournemouth are going to be thinking about the league. It's not like Bournemouth are going, right, we'll play our first 11. You look at Luton last night against Man United playing the B team. Leicester tonight have had a completely different 11. So Leicester are thinking about Sunday. It's not just going to be us thinking about it. So I'm happy for them to get a nod. If we lose, we lose. I know it's our cup, but let's just get this season out of the way. Let's get that Premier League back, and then let's take it from there. That's how I think about it.
Yeah. But, and, you know, I know you and I have kind of had heated discussions about it as well, you know, over the months. But this is the perfect opportunity if we want these younger players to flourish and be the next generation who's actually playing in the Premier League. We've got to give them this opportunity now. And I'm with you, Dan. I'd rather play them, get some good experience under the belt. Hopefully Bournemouth come with a pretty full strength team. And all right, let's see what Delap and, you know, I saw Laney's team earlier, you know, possibly putting Pozo in and Bernabé and maybe Braff will get a run out. We don't know. But let's see what they can do. And then that's going to be the gauge. Are we going to loan them out? Do they think they're going to be ready in a couple of years' time, you know, for Premier League? This is the perfect opportunity to see.
I did say this the other night after the Wolves game. And I did say I'd like to see the same back four. I know there's a lot of games going on, but let's get a back four that's solid together and gelled together. But with Leicester changing all their team, Leicester think they're going to come and beat us on Sunday. That is why they've rested Vardy. That's why they've rested their back four. So maybe I've got a feeling Eric Garcia is going to start alongside Arwood Bellis. Right wing, right back, I don't know. Left back, possibly Mendy because we haven't got another left back. I reckon Doyle's going to be in midfield. I reckon Foden's going to play. Delap and Torres. And I don't know what other midfielders going to be. But it's a hard one to say, innit? And would you be disappointed if we lost, Dave?
Only if we don't play some of our younger players. I'm not bothered otherwise. If we can give some of these younger players an opportunity in that first team and give them a run out, give them some experience, and they make a good account of themselves, I'm not bothered if we lose, to be perfectly honest.
Like I say, it's not like we're going to get a trip to Wembley this year, fan-wise, so fuck Wembley off, just don't even do it. But, like I say, I'm looking forward to it. It's just going to be a funny all season,
Yeah.
innit? So.
And how are Bournemouth doing in the league right now?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, Dave, but I know they're going to be. If you're Bournemouth now, are you bothered about a League Cup run? Because you're not getting any gate receipts.
No, and that's my point, really, that maybe they're looking at this game the same way that we possibly are, that if Bournemouth are trying to rebound and get in the Premier League, well, maybe they're going to save some of their better players as well, and they're going to be playing their reserve team because they've got a more important game in the league on Saturday.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Luton last night. Luton got Man United in at their own ground, and they put the B team out because they're playing Watford on Saturday. Yeah. Like, you think now, if fans are in ground and they put the B team out, they'd be hell on. They'd be hell on. But you think going to Luton, small ground, their fans behind it, it'd have been an hard game. Well, it was a hard game anyway. I know they won 3-0, but it was an hard game for United anyway. But yeah, I think it's going to be a City win and a lot of new faces, and I'm looking forward to it. That Liam Delap, I know I've talked about it on Page and other podcasts, looks a proper player, looks a really, really good prospect. I mean, the Wolves game, I didn't think it was right to bring him on. I don't know how you felt about watching it, Dave, but I thought it was a bit hit and miss. Jesus, on that yellow card, it were a bit worrying, but it does a lot. And I don't know if a young 16, 17-year-old kid had done what Jesus did. Same with Torres. I didn't think Torres really should have been brought on. I thought he'd got chucked in at deep end, marking Traore and I don't know who were on the right wing, because like Traore was playing like right wing back, wasn't he? But he did a job, and I'm looking forward to seeing him Thursday.
Yeah. Well, someone, who is it? Ryan Askew's just pointed out. Looking forward to seeing Stefan in goal. And he's right. That's going to be the biggie tomorrow. Stefan, we've missed that solid number 2. Bravo. Yeah, I don't want to disparage him too much, but I'm really looking forward to good things with Stefan and him actually pushing Edison for that number 1 spot. So yeah, that's a good shout. That I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to on Thursday. I know, like Laney was saying, he didn't appreciate what Pep said, but like what I said to Brian, he's in a bit of a lose-lose, isn't he? He can't say, I want to play the same team. He can't say he's not going to play at Academy. We've got 7 players who are injured for the Wolves game. That's a lot for your first team, even in a 22-man squad, isn't it? So
the problem is, isn't it, Dan, is, you and I have talked about this before, that we need to get off to a strong start in the Premiership, and Pep realises that. So in order to do that, if we've got any chance of beating Leicester, who are playing well this season already, well, we need to rest Foden. We need to rest KDB. We probably need to rest Aki, because he played well. We need to rest Walker, and it just is what it is. So if we can't have it both ways. If we want to get off to a flying start in the Premier League, and we don't want to be 18 points behind Dippers or anyone else, we've got to use our youth team, and but what we've got to make sure, Dan, we do is on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is, we beat Leicester if we're going to do that. Yeah. That's the big thing.
You know what, Dave? You're sitting there on head, right? We've had Wolves away. Good team. Solid team. Started well. Now we've got Leicester, another good team who's trying to push to that next level. The 2 hard teams to play early on. But you've rushed, like John Stones. I thought John Stones, like we've all had an opinion on him. I've always liked him, but I did think it was right for him to move on this season. He stayed. He played brilliant. He lost his man a couple of times, but he played well. How injury prone is he? So if you risk John Stones on a Thursday against Bournemouth in League Cup and he gets injured, it's a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Resting, getting them these 5-6 days recovery time, getting back in with Leicester, with Ake. I wish we had a different left back to Mendy because I thought he were absolutely awful against Wolves. Getting rested, and there we go. And like Walker's, am I right in thinking Walker's 32? He can't be playing every week at that level, can he?
Well, that's the thing as well, Dan. You're exactly right, because whatever team Guardiola puts out tomorrow, let's say he puts Stones in, or let's say he goes with that same back four. They ain't playing at the weekend because he's made that very clear. They can't play that many games. So I think you're right about Stones. If we play Stones tomorrow night, that means he's not going to play at the weekend. And then he's thinking in his head, bloody hell, like what did I do wrong against Wolves? Now I'm playing against Bournemouth, and now I know I'm not going to be playing at the weekend. So
and now confidence is gone. If he gets on against Stones, like I said after the Wolves game, if we'd have got that clean sheet, I reckon Stones and Ake would have been a proper force. Their goal were a good goal. You can't take it away from him.
That header was wonderful, and he nutmegged Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, beautiful goal. But I reckon that clean sheet, confidence-wise, Stones and Ake. We all know Stones is a good player, right? He did crap last season. Let's just put it. But it looks like he's put it behind him. Let's all City fans put it behind us as well. Get a bit of confidence behind the lad, and let's push on from there. That's how I feel about it, anyway.
Yeah, he's not. I think you're right, Dan. He's not going anywhere. I posted on our group chat earlier today. Something tells me there's no more transfers coming in. Like, you don't hear anything about Koulibaly now. Like Koundé, it's been 2 days since we heard anything about that. There's never been any talk about Diaz or Upamenko. There's no talk about a striker. It's a week away, the transfer deadline. I just have this funny feeling we're done. I think Stones made a decent account of himself. We're not going to be able to agree a fee with Barcelona because they want to give us like 500,000 for Garcia, and I think we're pitching about 18 million that we want for him. So he's going to see out his contract. Maybe Pep's just thinking now, well, maybe I've just got enough when Laporte comes back. I've got 2 sets of centre backs now, so maybe I'm just going to live with that. I
agree with Dave, and I think it's not Pep's fault we haven't signed anybody. Pep is not going to him. Don't sign anybody else. I'm happy with his squad. Pep's giving a list saying, I want these players. Get them if you can. But you know yourself, Dave, financial fair play is a burden on us now. Now, think how much we're losing on match days. This is massive. Us not going to the game is massive. I'm even thinking of like my supporters club. We're on about selling his minibus because we can't afford to keep it running because we're not going March. I know that's like small fish, but the club must be thinking the same. The club must be thinking, maybe this 70 million signing, we can't do it unless we're going to win something.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I was pretty surprised that Wolves shelled out 33 million today on Semedo and I thought exactly the same thing, Dan. Where they're going to be under financial fair play, Wolves, if they're not careful, because there's no income.
I think they're being investigated now, aren't they?
I mean, they should be. I don't agree with any of it, but by the rules, they probably should be because they've spent, what was it? Was it 35 million on that Silva guy? They now spent 33 million on Semedo. There's no income coming in.
Yeah, so, but they sold that Jota, didn't they, for 54 million?
I don't know where Wolves are getting that kind of, well, they do because they've got rich owners, but they've got, to your point, they've got nothing coming in from merchant, from match sales or anything like that. So it's got to be a struggle for anyone.
So that's what I'm thinking. That's my look on it. I'd love to sign another centre back. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to sign another striker. But if City's looking at this season and thinking, we're just going to have to risk it. We're going to have to risk it. There's not a lot of players that you want to sell, is there? I know a lot of people have been slagging Angelino deal off, but maybe clubs thinking, well, he's not going to. If we get to me, he's not going to play many games. Let's just get the 12, 18 million. Let's just get it next season and then push on from there. It's a funny old world, football. Like Brian was saying, you could tell him I want that player more than anything, but if the deal can't be agreed, it can't be agreed. So,
yeah, God, I would have loved Figo at City. That would have been.
Yeah, but David,
absolutely incredible.
He'd have been shit. I know he would have. He'd have been shit. I'm telling you.
I mean,
but anyway, pal, nice speaking to you, and we'll catch up again. See you later.
City till we die. See you later.